Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Union County Heritage Museum in New Albany, Mississippi. We're here today on a Monday afternoon with our very own Zeke Listenbee. This is part of our Beyond the Tracks musical series, which is a series that we started in May. Yeah, and almost every week we've had different area musicians come in and perform. Some days or nights the audience is there are about 3 of us here. And then today we have a fantastic crowd, so we're really excited for that. This all started as part of the museum's response to COVID and a way to provide entertainment for people here, a way to share our talent that we have here, and also a way for our musicians to have a chance to tell their stories. And so it's been really fun because it's a different setting and a different kind of environment for musicians to be able to talk a little, play a little, talk a little, play a little, and just kind of share their musical journey with us. So, with all of that being said, welcome, Zeke Listenbee.
Well, thank you so much. Before I get started talking, I guess I'm talking now. I found a photo in my mom's house maybe about 45 minutes ago, and it was a picture of me sitting on a rock out at the park along the river, and it brought back a memory of something I want to share with you before I get ready to play. So when we were in 7th grade, I was told that as we were getting ready to open up the park along the river or something like that, it was going to coincide with Earth Day or something like that. So there was a rumor that they wanted me to come and to play America the Beautiful. So I was so excited, the 7th grade, kid that like, oh, I'm going to get a chance to, go and play. I just love to play. And it never happened. So, but back up a little bit. When I got home, I told my dad, I was like, hey, they want me to play, God Bless America, America the Beautiful. Want me to play America the Beautiful at the park along the river opening and stuff like that. And so I said, I need you to teach me how to play, America the Beautiful. And in true Frank Listenbee fashion, he looked at me and turned down the TV and put his cigarette out. And he taught me America the Beautiful. And I'm going to play the version that he taught me in 7th grade that I never got a chance to play at the park along the river all those years ago. So it doesn't sound like it normally would sound, so maybe there was a reason why I didn't get a chance to do it. But this is what my dad taught me. For beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesty above the part of it was probably going to sound close to that. So anyway. Oh, anything? Oh, okay. Well, what am I supposed to say?
Anything you want.
Anything? Oh, I didn't know that type of interview. Well, I got started right here with everybody that's in this room. I have some type of story, probably several stories, to go along with the relationships I have in this room. No matter what stage I stand on, I tell this story that about 2 years before I came here and did my concert, I got a chance to stand on the stage of ACDA, American Choral Directors Association. And it was people from all over the world standing there listening to a piece that I had a world premiere. I had written a choral piece, had a world premiere, and I sat and I looked in the audience and I sat and looked at all these people from all these different parts of the world. And I was like, I can trace all of this back to Martintown Road, Mississippi. And it was the craziest thing, you know, and no matter how many people I sit down and I talk with, it all traces back to, you know, 1449 County Road 86, or that Martin Banfield down the street. I mean, it's just one of those two things, or Zion Chapel, or Watson Grove. And I am so grateful and I'm so thankful that God has allowed me to do the things I have. I had no intentions of going and doing the things that I'm doing now. I just love music so much. Many of you know that I was horrible at sports. Terrible. See, that's how much you know about my sports career. None of you responded. So I had no intentions of doing anything with sports. I just loved music. Anything that involved music, I was like a sponge. I wanted to learn it. I didn't care who you were. If you had something that I wanted when it had to do with music, I was going to get around you and I was going to learn it. It was probably improper intentions, but I wanted to learn music really bad. So everything from sitting in the band hall with Emily Cook, learning bagatelle, or sitting with Suzanne McCollum and trying to learn things, or being with Ms. Harmon or Mr. Eubanks, Mr. Cole, Sam and Bob, and I could just go on and on and on. This place has made me the man that I am today, and the stuff I get a chance to do is because of the people in this room and a lot of other people who are not with us anymore. One of the things that I would like to share is I learned how to be a proper musician while living in New Albany, Mississippi. I know there's a lot of people who know how to play and they know how to do a lot of things, but I really felt like my education in music began right here. The conversations that I have with record execs from Brooklyn or LA or New York, they always find it funny when they're like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm from Mississippi. Well, no, but like, where are you from? I know you probably live there, but like, where are you from? I'm like, no, I'm from Mississippi. Okay, okay, where in Mississippi? I'm like, a little town called New Albany. Never heard of it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you never heard of it, but it's the best place in the world to me. So one of the things I got a chance to learn as a piano player in the band hall at New Albany, Mr. Kevin Cole came to me one day with a tape. I'm kind of a pack rat. I still have the tape. He gave it to me like in 1995, and I still have it. And it was a tape of George Gershwin. And I had never heard music like this before. And I'm going to play one of the pieces that I learned from George Gershwin. So that piece really opened up the door for a lot of different things. It was in that same year that Miss Harmon, so good to see Miss Harmon here. Miss Harmon, we were doing Bye Bye Birdie as our play that year. And with all of the music that came along with Bye Bye Birdie, one of the particular songs that she wanted in there that was like from the movie or something was not in the music. So she went to Mr. Eubanks and said, hey, you know, is there a way that we can get this piece done to make sure it gets in the play? And that moment opened up the door for me as a composer, not just as a piano player. I had no clue what I was doing, but I was so excited for the opportunity to be able to do it. So Mr. Eubanks, being so kind, gave me some manuscript paper and kind of gave me some instructions, and I went home with a little tape and sat there and tried to figure out how to do it, and I bring it back and let him correct it, and I come back and I do it again and I correct it. And that moment opened up the door for me that has made me a lot of money. So I really appreciate that opportunity, Ms. Harmon and Mr. Eubanks. I don't think people realize the importance of music education in the public schools. People don't really have a clue of what it's done. I'm a product of the music education in a public school. I was able to be a part of a band program that we worked hard every time we showed up. Everybody was pulling their weight. Everybody enjoyed being there. We were all there for one mission, learning and growing. The choral program was the same way. We were all there together. We were working together, and we got a chance to learn and to grow. And I keep using the word product, but I feel like I am. I'm a product of people, of Billy Eubanks and Miss Vicki Harmon, who took out time to go, hey, let's give that kid a shot. We can do it ourselves, but you know what? Let's give him an opportunity to do that. So before I go any further, are there any questions from the audience? I just don't want to sit here and talk the whole time. I like to kind of have conversation, go back and forth with people. Is there any questions in the audience? Anything? No.
I was going to ask you a minute ago,
yes, sir.
When you played America the Beautiful, if you played that well in the 7th grade.
I did. My life was really boring, so I spent a lot of time practicing, and the feel of that. What I did was I combined, like I learned how the song went, but that's the way we played in church. Mm-hmm. So there was, I never tried to separate what you were teaching me and what my dad was teaching me and what Sam and Bob taught me and what Brother Howell taught me in church. I just tried to figure out a way to combine them all together. And I played piano. That's all I did. I didn't, you know how terrible of a euphonium player I was. I played piano. And so yes, sir, it was. The singing part, absolutely not. But the piano playing part.
I noticed in that arrangement, I could hear Ray Charles in there.
Yes, sir.
Along with Ray Charles, what other musicians have you been influenced by in your playing? I know there are a lot.
Oh man, I could go on. Anybody who played black and white keys, first of all. I was a huge, and still am a huge Elton John fan, which I became a fan in high school. I loved Elton John. My father was a huge James Cleveland fan. James Cleveland was considered the king of gospel, who was just a maestro when it came to playing piano and creating the style. So I studied James Cleveland. I studied Ray Charles a lot. Studied Billy Preston a lot. I was a big Gershwin fan. So again, I just always tried to find ways of combining all of these different elements to it. So I used to like to I read a book once in the library where it talked about Duke Ellington, who was a huge influence on me. One of his first gigs, he only knew 3 or 4 songs. So what he did is that he made each one of those songs, he had 3 or 4 different arrangements of the same song so he could get money on the gig. So I took what I read in 12th grade and I was like, well, I need to create a different version of each song. So for instance, for America the Beautiful, where that one had a little bit more gospel tone, I would take a little bit more of maybe a Gershwin tone if I was going to play it, which is Gershwin used a lot of different feel to it. So I would practice all of these different styles, and then I would try to take the same song, and I'm like, well, how would Elton John play this? And he would, you know. And so I would just take all these different styles and just try to combine them together, because again, my life was pretty boring, and I enjoyed it. I say that, I say boring, I'm being facetious when I say that. I loved music that much, where I would take 3 months to learn this one style, and I'd take another 3 months to learn this one style, another 3 months. I still remember the day that you gave me, you had an egg crate in the band hall that had a lot of your rock records in it. And you let me hear Jackson Browne for the first time. You let me hear the Eagles for the first time. I'm like, I've never heard this stuff before. And I'm in there, and so I was just like a sponge. I would just eat that stuff up. I just loved it. So
I think every musician is a combination of all the musicians that they've been exposed to.
Yes, sir.
Even Elton John, even George Gershwin.
That's right.
They're a combination. They're influenced by others and put it together in their own way, just like you do.
And they were highly influenced by the African American experience. Elton John actually played piano for like Patti LaBelle early in the day. So they were the soul era. And then George Gershwin was known to go to what they called rent parties. Rent parties were what they had in New York. They would move a piano into a room, and that's how people would pay their rent. They would charge money for people to come in, and they get the two best piano players in town to be like the dueling pianos. That's how people paid their rent. So George Gershwin was known to go to these rent parties and hear like the best African American piano players, and that's why it has a little bit of a blues and this classical thing, because he combined all of those worlds together too. So yes, sir, that's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
So, any other questions? Thank you for that question. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
You were talking about your first experience at composing. So where has that led you, your composing?
I've composed a choral piece that was premiered at ACDA, like I mentioned earlier, with the University of Houston, and then I had a wind ensemble piece that was premiered by the University of Mississippi Wind Ensemble back in 2014. So it's led me to a lot of different things. I had a piano teacher that Miss Betty King was my piano teacher while I was here for 3 years. And when I got in band, I stopped taking piano for a while. But she introduced me to a friend of hers. His name was Raymond Liebau. And if I'm not mistaken, he was one of your professors, Mr. Eubanks, in college. And he became my piano teacher. And unbeknownst to me, he was this world-renowned composer.
Wow.
And he never told me.
Wow.
And I saw his name on some book somewhere, and it said international something. And I'm like, did you know that like your name is on this book? And he was like, it's the humblest. And he's like, Mr. Liebau's probably about 88 years old now. And he was like, oh, that's no big deal. It was some great stuff.
Wow.
And I never forgot that. I mean, he's just world renowned. And he lived right there in Oxford, taught at Ole Miss for 30 years. It was just no big deal. And those types of things kept me going as far as a composer. I'm just like, well, I got a lot of work to do, because there's people around here who are composing some great stuff. So I want to keep up with him. I'm not, but I want to try my best to try to keep up with people like him. So it's taken me pretty far. The last church that I was at, we're roughly about 5,000 people, and we had a 30-piece orchestra and every Sunday. And then we had, when the youth would come in, we had about a 50-piece orchestra. So whenever they couldn't find the music at the publishing house, they would shoot it to me, and it was basically back when I was in 10th grade with Miss Harmon, and I'd sit there and I'd chart out all the music again for this 30-piece orchestra and just go on from there. And I love it. It gives me life, if I could say it like that. It's just so much fun to do. It's so much discovering to do. So, thank you. Any other questions?
I wish that you could play that arrangement that you played for me the other day when you came for a visit of that young man that was on American Idol.
Oh, okay.
I wish you could play the recording that you played with me. You may not be able to do it justice just on keyboard.
I don't think I can.
It was phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Well, what he's speaking of is that I met this young man when I moved to Houston. He was a 17-year-old. He was in the youth program, and he says, hey, I want you to give me voice lessons. I'm like, okay, great. So I started working with him, and he goes off to college, and he comes back, and he's in my office literally just every day, just kind of getting on my nerves. And so he's just hanging around. He's like, Pastor Zeke, can we do? I'm like, you're really getting on my nerves. So what we're going to do is, I said, every day you show up, we're going to write a song. Come to find out that this kid, he was 18 years old, but he wrote like he was 50 or 60 years old. Wow. I mean, his ability to just make you dream all of this stuff. And I'm talking within 30 minutes, he could write the most beautiful lyrics on the planet. So we started working with each other, and that summer we wrote 40 songs together, complete songs. Well, he went on to be the top 10 of American Idol about 5 years ago. And one of the songs that we did was actually I reimagined it for the wind ensemble at Ole Miss. So yes, sir, it was used over there.
What was his name again? So we can
his name is Uche Ndubizu.
How would we look that up?
His name is U-C-H-E.
U-T-H-E.
U-C-H. Yeah, U-C-H-E.
So we can look up American Idol.
You can look up American Idol Uche, and
okay.
You won't ever forget him once you see him.
Yeah, he showed me some of it.
Yeah, he's a character, but he's a phenomenal writer. And again, God brings these people into your life to make you better. And here I was, this 31, 32-year-old person, and this 18-year-old kid shows up, and he's like really whipping my tail when it comes to writing. And I'm like, okay, I need to learn from you, because apparently you know something that I don't. And he took me from here to here as far as a writer. So, anybody else? Thank you for those questions. I appreciate it. I love the interaction with people. Nothing?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Of all the genres that you enjoy, what led you to your profession as a music minister?
That's a good question. Well, God was the genre that led me to my profession. I had no intentions of being a worship pastor. When we were in career day at WP Daniel, I did not check worship pastor as being, I had no clue. I wanted to be a band director. Mr. Eubanks can tell you from 11th grade, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a band director. I was going to have me a marching band. I was going to go to Tupelo band contest, and I was so excited about that. Then I got in college about my junior year, and the Lord just flipped everything upside down. And I'm like, I still love music, but I'm like, the teaching part, I'm just like, I don't get it. And then my wife, my beautiful wife, Cynthia, she came into my life, and we both were just kind of praying. She knew what she wanted to do in life, and she was determined. She was awesome and phenomenal, and still is. And so she was going about her career, but I was trying, like, what am I doing? I'm like, I love music, I love creating, I love composing. And God would work it out to where he literally snatched me from where I was at and stuck me in Western North Carolina. And I'll tell the full story so everybody can know. And I'll try to keep it short. So my wife is going to a church there. She says, hey, the minister of music is about to leave. She said, why don't, because I was still in school. She said, why don't you apply for the job? And I'm like, minister of music? Like, I'm going to be a music teacher. What are you talking about? She was like, yeah, go ahead and fill it out. And fill out the paperwork, because this is 15, 16 years ago. Fill out the paperwork, send it in. Then I decided to go on the website, and I look at the church. And I called her back, and I said, Cynthia, there's no black people at that church. And she said, yeah. And I'm like, no, you didn't hear me. I said, there's no black people at the church. Like, why did you have me sign up for a church? And I'm like, what would I do? She was like, you don't know what God's going to do.
Right.
So God would have it that he literally, like I said, he snatched me from North Mississippi and put me over there. And I got this job as a worship pastor, and my wife and I were the multi-culture of the church.
Amen.
And we were there for 5.5 years, and the things that the Lord did in our life there set me on the path to be able to do everything I'm doing today. He, my pastor, he told me, he said, I can't teach you anything about music. He said, you've already done the music part. He said, I can teach you how to be a pastor. He said, I see that God has called you to be a pastor. He said, I can train you and I can teach you and I can hold your hand and let you mess up and pick you up and keep going. And he said, if you want to go along with the challenge, you know, I'm willing to go with you. And I prayed and I was like, God, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. And now I can't imagine anything else I was supposed to be doing but being a music pastor. Everything that thought I was going to get a chance to do, impacting people, I just could do it in a different way.
Yes.
I get a chance to work with people and help them grow, but not just help them grow musically, but spiritually, to help them walk through different areas of life. And so that's the story of how I became a worship pastor. So 15 years later, I'm still doing it. So.
Tell them about the church that you're at now.
The church I'm at now, I'm in Longview, Texas, and I'm at a Southern Baptist church there. This is my second Southern Baptist church to be at, and it is probably one of the best jobs I've ever had. I'm getting a chance to learn, getting a chance to grow, getting a chance to put a lot of the musical things that I've learned into practice. And it's a growing church. The church is called New Beginnings Baptist Church, and my pastor's name is Todd Conitz. And it's just a wonderful experience. It's a great experience for my kids each week. And it's a great experience for our entire family to be there. And God brought us there, you know, like he brought us everywhere else. And we'll just serve and do what God has called us to do while we're there. So, but God keeps opening up opportunities because I went where he told me to go.
Yes.
And instead of going my own way, I was like, well, I'll just go where he tell me to go, and he's opened up all of these opportunities that it talks about, the scripture says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness, and all these things will be added. All these things to be added are things that are blowing my mind. I'm like, I never thought I'd be doing that. All right, God, well, I guess I'll go and do that too. So, but that's the story there. Yeah. How about I play something else? Here's something really churchy. Elton John fan. Hey kids, shake it loose together in the spine. Not hitting something that's been known to change the weather. We'll kill the fattest calf tonight, so stick around. You're gonna hear amazing music, solid notes of sound. Hey Kenny and Rodney, have you seen them yet? Oh, they're so spaced out. Benny and the Jets. Oh, they're weird and wonderful. Oh, Benny, she's a red queen. She's got electric boobs, a mohair suit. You know I read it in a magazine. Oh, Benny and the Jets. But Benny makes them exist. I forgot the words. She's got electric boobs, a mohair suit. You know I read it in a magazine. Oh, Benny and the Jets. I guess lastly, I want to share something. I have found it interesting, the path that the Lord has sent me, which like I said, I never thought I would be on. I have been put in these opportunities to be able to bring all of these different worlds and cultures together. Mm-hmm. So my first job in Houston 10 years ago, when we moved to Texas 10 years ago, I was at a predominantly Nigerian church. We're 60% Nigerian, 20% were people from the islands, and the other, let me add up, I'm a musician, hold on, 60, 20, the other percentage were people from about 30 other nations. I had never experienced that before in my life. It was just like walking into this plethora of people and cultures and all of these things. So while I was there, I got a chance to learn more than white and black. I learned so much about culture and people. And then my wife being from Brazil, she taught me a lot about language and how you can say one thing in this culture, but you say it over here that's offensive. You can say something over here that can mean one thing, you say something over here that means something else. So one of the greatest parts about my job is being able to learn about people's culture. Not just learn about what street they lived on, but where they came from and their grandmother and how they did life and how they did all these different things. I have enjoyed, that's probably the most exciting part about my journey, is how God has allowed me to take all of these different pieces and instead of trying to divide them, understand how special each one of them are and teach them how to work together.
That's great.
That's the best part of my job. I love doing music. I love the Grammy nominations. I love all these different things, but that's the most poignant part of my job, is being able to bring all of these different worlds together and not try to bring them together and say, well, you can't be this and you can't be this and you can't be this, but I want you to be fully who you are, and we're going to bring it all to the table and we're going to make it work. So when I went from that church to the next church, we had 96 nations at the church. 96 nations. So I'm like, God, what are you doing with all of this? I'm from New Albany. Like, why would you be taking me to do all this stuff? But God has a plan and he has a purpose for what he does and how he does it. So I want to encourage everybody in the room and even the people who are watching, pay attention to the people that God brings into your life.
Yes.
And to make sure that you honor and you respect them for who they are and don't try to make them like you.
Right.
You know, oh, that's just like mine. But no. Try to learn exactly who they are and where they're from. And I found that that's been the biggest part of my success, was taking things exactly how God gave them to me, putting all these worlds together and letting him create something great with them. So, yes, sir.
What could you say to young people like yours and mine and those on Facebook that might be watching, advice in general, in music, in life?
I would say be careful about all the things that you watch. Not everything is what you think it is. There's something about watching stuff online. I know we're online, but watching things online, it gives you this perception that everything is perfect, and it's not. People have problems and they have things that they work through, so you should give yourself room to grow and to learn. Instead of feeling like I have to be perfect like the person on the other side of the screen. You know, everybody takes the perfect picture, right? You know,
Right.
Everybody has the perfect music, they have the perfect, life is not like that. And I would say for any young person is that find the beauty in the imperfections and enjoy all of the hardships that come along. Enjoy that too. Even when it comes to music, for me, when things got difficult, I figured out a way to enjoy the difficult season. So when I couldn't get my scales down, okay, well let me not freak out. Let me figure out a way to enjoy the season, do my very best, and then move on. So I would say, I don't know if that's kind of like rambling, but that would be the biggest thing. Don't let what you see online deter you from going to your goal of what you want to do. You know, because no one's perfect. They're not. So, anyone else? Yes, ma'am?
I have an observation first.
Okay.
It's so fun to watch you play it's beautiful. You look like you're kneading biscuit dough or something.
I've never heard that before, but thank you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. I will never forget that.
My question is, do you play by ear?
I do both. I do both. The two main people who helped me to be able to do both well are in this room. That's Reverend Lee Russell Howell and Mr. Billy Eubanks. Excuse me, and also Miss Vicki Harmon. They helped me to. My ear started to develop when I got in 5th grade, and funny story. I think I told the story before, but I was downstairs playing something that Miss Betty King had given me. I think it was. Let's say playing something like that. Now I was kind of adding my own thing. Mm-hmm. My dad walks past the steps. He's like, "Hey, what you doing down there?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm practicing my music." He's like, "No, I played that before. That ain't how that goes." And I'm like, "Well, I'm just, I'm practicing my music." He was like, "Listen, I'm paying that white woman too much money. You got to be wasting. You're not gonna be wasting my money. You better play what's on that piece of paper." And at that moment, he called Betty King and told her never to play another piece for me because she would play the piece before I would leave. She's like, "Well, next week your song goes like this." And I'd be like, "Yep, that's exactly how it goes." And I'd go home and I'd try to make up the rest of it. But my father caught on to it really quick. And so, and Miss King, we always have a joke about that. We just think that's funny. But my ear started to develop in around 5th grade, but band brought me back to being able to get 50-50. So I can live in both worlds pretty well. And I like it. I like it too. So, when you're doing hymns, I'm sorry, excuse all the faces. So, thank you, Lee Russell Howell. Yes, sir.
She asked about playing by ear. You learn to play by ear once you learn music. And most folks want to do it backwards. You don't play by ear first. Once you're in chords and things, then you can put the book down and play. But we want to do it first, and it's impossible to play by ear first. We try to. We end up playing in one key all the time.
I started reading. I started reading because I started when I was 5. So when I was 5 up until 5th grade, I read everything. And then my ear kind of kicked in. But like I said, band really helped me to keep both of those worlds where it was 50-50. So I give value to both. So there's some people that I work with that they don't read. They want to learn how to read, but I think that's a blessing that the Lord has given me. I can help them learn. Well, okay, wait a minute, you're listening. Okay, now let's read what's on the paper. We can kind of go back and forth. Because, it's a gift from God. You just have to learn how to steward it well. That's all.
Right.
That's all.
Amen.
That's all.
Yes, it is.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, of course, I like to say, glad to see you in the position that you're in now. Because back in the day when we played, Sam and Bob, Holden and Johnson, you would help. I know Sam and Bob arrange stuff. They thought they had it down. But this young guy,
Very respectably, I did that. Very respectably, I did that.
and this young guy in the band, Zeke, he said, no, that ain't the way it goes. That ain't the way it goes. And, I know you taught us, because I'm the one that with the listening ear, trying to learn how this guy know all this stuff here. Of course, you've been trained. I know the band, got something from you and learned. And I would think you got something from playing with us, because we had our style.
Yes, sir.
And it's just like let me see, I'm getting my words twisted up. Like these I call hill country players. they play and they change keys when they get ready.
Right.
But you laid it down like it's supposed to, like you playing blues, 16 bar 12, all of that.
That's right.
Yeah, you made it right, and I know you arranged horns for the band too for a couple of records.
Yes.
I'm just glad to see you in the position you're in, and I know you're going further.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I can't say enough about two bands, the Paul Rainey Band and Mosley and Johnson. I felt like I was in a college graduate course every time I got a chance to hang out with one of those bands. I still remember the days of being able to go with Bob Johnson and Sam Mosley. Most of you guys know Bob and my dad drove trucks together in Mohasco for years. So these guys were always in my life. They were never not in my life. And we were always, my dad and Bob down there arguing over chords and stuff like that and arrangements. And then I remember being my son's age, going to the hut and being there for 10 hours on set and not feeling like I had been there 20 minutes. Because just to watch these geniuses work out this music, it was phenomenal. And then being able to be around the Paul Rainey Band with this horn section that I was like, oh my God, what is this? It was wonderful. I'm so blessed to have been around. That was just a part of my upbringing. That wasn't like I had to go far off to do that. No, that was right here in Union County. I got a chance to experience that all the time. And everybody in the band was very serious about teaching me how it was supposed to be. Before I even got to college, they were teaching me, no, this is what a band is supposed to sound like. This is how it's supposed to look on stage. These are how the horn parts are supposed to sound. This is how the rhythm section is supposed to sound. This is how blues is really supposed to sound. So I was honored, and that stuff still has a lasting effect on me, today. I still remember, kind of get teary thinking about it, I still remember how much of an what's the word I'm looking for? Investment that Sam and Bob made in my life. I still remember the day that I sat in Bob's driveway, and he gave me. I just started Ole Miss. I just finished band camp, and he gives me an amplifier and a keyboard. And he says, "Hey man, you're gonna do great things." Blah blah blah. I just remember how hot it was standing out in his driveway. Like, can we just get under the porch, And we're standing there, and he's just talking, and he's like, "Man, you've been doing really good." And blah 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 blah. And 2 weeks later, he was gone. That stuff, it stayed with me, and I'm like, wow, how blessed was I to be able to sit there and talk to this man. Even when I saw Steve Livingston had passed away, I'm like, I remember sitting and him going, "Hey, why don't you play organ? I'm gonna play bass." And I'm like, that was a huge deal to me. So those things have had a huge impact on me and have changed me forever. So thank you, Sam and Bob, and thank you, Paul Rainey Band, for doing that.
Did you get a chance to look at Steve's stuff?
I see this. Yes, this is phenomenal. This is great stuff.
One more thing I wanted to ask you about it. This is related. We have a mutual friend that I met through you on Facebook named James Francis. Trombone player, is that right?
Oh, James Reese.
James Reese. Huh?
Yes, sir.
And he's a jazz trombonist from up in North Carolina. Did you meet him while you were there? And what about him? He's such an inspirational guy. He is
a phenomenal African-American trombone player. James should probably be in his 80s. Most people don't know, James used to be one of the trombone players for Motown. He played on like the last Jackson 5 tour, and he played for the Temptations and stuff like that. I went to go sing at a church, to lead worship at a church, and there he was over there playing trombone, just humbly, just part of the worship team, playing trombone. And I'm like, man, this old dude can play. I'm like, yeah, he's great. And he just kind of came like an uncle, and has always just kind of stayed in my life, just real encouraging. Hey man, keep going. So he just adds to the number of people who've just been so encouraging. He's a phenomenal musician who still plays every day, and he had a great impact in my life because I didn't see as many horn players. As you guys remember, we didn't have a lot of horn players in the black churches growing up here. So to see an African American gentleman who was using his horn in church, that I was like, oh my God, this is great. So that's James Reese. Much love to him. He's a phenomenal gentleman.
Is he in North Carolina? Is that-
Yes, he is, or South Carolina.
South Carolina.
He's in Greensboro, South Carolina. Yes, sir. He's a great guy.
He puts out some very inspirational, not only music, but words.
Yes, yes. He's a great guy. He's a great and a phenomenal player, like I just said. So he really speaks into the young people. So yes, sir. Anybody else?
What about your upcoming projects? What's going on? What's brewing right now for you?
Okay.
creatively?
I have some things that are in the works. I can't give all the details, but there's some. One of my biggest goals for the last 5 years was to be a part of movies and Netflix and stuff like that. So I'm working on some things for that. That's really exciting. I had one of the artists that I write for, his name is Ricky Dillard. And so he just did a recording a couple of weeks ago, which I have I have one song and two that I arranged on there. And some other projects that are coming up. Right now I'm working on my church's project and a worship project. And you should start seeing things January 1st. And that should be all year of material coming out for that. And I'm actually going to be speaking to since it's in a music school in Brazil. I'm going to be like a guest speaking to them next week sometime. And so I'm hoping to get a chance maybe to travel to Brazil and do some composing and conducting down there. So rather than that, I mean, I'm at church every day, working with young people and working, not just with young people, just working with the people that God's called me to pastor and learning a lot from my kids. My kids are phenomenal and they're teaching me a lot. Some stuff I don't want to learn, but they're teaching me a lot, and my kids are very talented. They scare me of how much talent that they have, and they make me very proud most of the time. They make me very proud of what they do all the time. Y'all make me proud.
So these are-
That's my 3 kids over there. It's Zion.
Stand up.
So that's my oldest, that's Zion, and then Zakiya, that's my second. You can stand up, baby. That's my second. And then that's my baby girl, Zelia.
All right.
And so they love hearing all the stories about New Albany, and I show them, I have pictures of everything. So I'm always like, so this is when we were at marching band contest, and this is the choir day from Pleasant Grove back in the day. And they're like, yeah, it's great. So I share everything about New Albany with them because I take y'all everywhere with me. Everywhere. Every song or anytime you see me post something, there's a piece of New Albany with it. So
There's a young lady on the end down there.
this is my gorgeous wife. Baby, stand up. So Cynthia and I met. She was working for Mr. Charles Harris, who had a magazine, still has a magazine, Brotherhood magazine. So she was one of the writers for Brotherhood magazine. And so she caught me in the hall. This was November of 2003. She caught me in the hall and she said, hi, my name is Cynthia Furtado. I work for Mr. Charles Harris. I need to write an interview about you and your musicianship and all stuff like that. And I'm like, hey. Where are you from? So she's like, well, I'm from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you ain't from around here, are you? And we've been together ever since. That was November. Thanks, Mr. Harris. Thank you, Charles Harris. I appreciate that. So that was November of 2003, and we had just been on an adventure ever since then. I will say this. She saw everything in me that I did not see. Everything that I never saw. I'm like, me? Why would I do that? She's like, what if God's calling you to do that? And I'm like, I don't think he called me to do that. Why would I? So I'm hugest supporter, prays for me, and we are just like, we still feel like college kids with 3 kids. We're just in each other's lives. She is actually working on a book right now, and so she is a phenomenal speaker and gets called to do things around the country, and so it's just we're just having fun, learning from each other. We ain't perfect, you know, God knows we ain't perfect, but we have fun and we learn from each other. I think that's the greatest thing, is that we learn from each other. So she's a musician and she's a singer also, and so I've learned a lot from
I
her.
was gonna ask if she's a musician.
She is. She is.
And I'll say this anyway, even though you are a musician, how in the world do you put up with the music?
Yeah. Well, her father was recording records in Brazil in the 80s.
Oh, wow.
So her father is a phenomenal, he's a pastor, and so she's grown up around band rehearsals and horn players and guitar players, being around the house and packing cars with drums and doing so. So God blessed me with the right person in order to do life with. So I know, yeah, that's my baby, that's my girl. Yes, Miss Vernita Farr.
I don't have a question, I just have to make a comment.
Okay,
Being that we grew up together.
That's right.
In the same church, you have an impact on a lot of us. We may not say it a lot, but you have a big impact on us, and you let us know that through God, all things are possible.
Yes.
amen, amen. I just, for you to say that means a lot, cousin. I appreciate that. It does. Every choir rehearsal when I was a kid, she would pick me up, take me to choir rehearsal. And when I was not supposed to be driving at 13, she let me drive her car. And so that's my cousin. So thank you so much. And
She was my best alto.
so yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about your Grammy nomination.
Okay, so back in 2014, my record that I was on, it got nominated for a Grammy, but I had to learn some things about the Grammy. Unless I've technically only been nominated twice, but I have 6 certificates. So what that means is that unless you are the artist, or you're the songwriter that the song got nominated for, or you're the engineer that mixed it, you don't get a trophy. But the last 2 that I got nominated for, I could have gotten trophies for. So God has really blessed me to where I've moved from just being a writer to being more of an arranger and producer, which offers more opportunities to be able to get Grammy nominations. Yeah, it's voted on by a group of, they have several chapters across America, and they listen to the records and they see which ones that they think are the best, and you get picked like that. So praying one day, be able to get one. It's not going to change, who I am. It's just they don't send you a check, with it. So it's just, but it'd be a great honor to know that, people hear your stuff. But I've never done what I've done for trophies. I love what I do. When I come home, my mom has the same piano that Miss Gibson gave her in 1968. Wow. And I still play the same piano that I played when I was 5 years old when I come home. So that stuff is nice, but it doesn't mean that much to me. I wish I could get one, but it doesn't mean that much to me at the same time, if you know what I mean. So, yes, Miss Barbara.
Hi, Zeke.
Hey, man.
When you first started, you were talking about your dad. As you know, he and my husband were very good friends.
That's right.
And on the weekend, I heard a lot about you and that music. Frank would be there, and we'd get to talking about the piano. How come on the other day, Zeke was playing something? I said, boy, if you don't get on those scales.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Like you said.
That's right.
I would hear a lot about you and your music because I watched you grow up, you and Dick.
Yes, ma'am.
And I understand he plays as well, so.
He does.
So we're very proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, my father was very strict on, he told me once, he said, you don't have to be a musician, but if you're gonna be one, you're gonna be good.
All right.
So that was the only rule. Like, he didn't make us be musicians because he was one, but no matter whether it was playing our horn or whatever we're gonna do, you're just gonna do it good. You're gonna do it where you're gonna work hard and no questions about it. So yes, ma'am.
Oh yeah, one more question. What was that song you directed at the band concert? Was it the theme to Superman?
Oh, I don't think so. It kind of sounded like it.
Star Wars or something?
No, man, I cannot remember the exact name of it, but I was student conductor my
Yeah.
senior year.
I don't mean director, but.
Yes, ma'am. I was student conductor, and I cannot remember the name of the piece, but it kind of had that same type of sound, kind of a really adventurous type of sound. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Anybody else? Oh, yes, ma'am.
I just want to, kind of reflect back on the last time you was here and did
The concert. Yes, ma'am.
at the auditorium,
Mm-hmm.
and how you just brought all the ones that was in your life just back together. And I asked my niece Cassandra, I said, how did you do that? How did y'all do that? And she said, I think he sent a tape, and we listened to it, and we practiced one time.
That's right.
It was awesome, one time.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was just awesome. And, my husband had a niece that was moving from Nashville to Memphis, and she stayed with us the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we came here last week, and, just showing her around. So she had to go back today, otherwise something came up, she had to go to Memphis today rather than tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I told her, I said, and I was showing her, it's amazing, I didn't even know you were gonna be here. And we was on Facebook last night, and I was just showing her all your pictures of the family, and told her, I said, look, it's right down the street. I said, well, he does it now. I said, his mom still lives right down the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, he played for us, and I said, look, these are his kids, this is his wife, and I said, and I just went, I said, God, I found a song where he was singing, and I went, and everywhere you wasn't singing, so I finally found one where you was singing. And then Judy called me, she said, Zeke's gonna be at the museum tomorrow. I said, what? She said, oh my goodness, she said, I'm not gonna, she said, well, take a picture of him. So I got a picture, she doesn't know you, but last night, that's all we were doing, just going through your Facebook page, And so it was just so amazing that Judy called and said, Zeke's gonna be at the museum. I said, well, we just got to go and do his page.
That's funny. That's
So I
funny.
got this picture that I'm gonna send to his niece.
Well, the song that I did that night, All Things Well, New Albany got the first listening to that song. That song went on to nominated for a Grammy. And I remember I watched that video over and over from that night going, man.
I know, and that was actually the one that popped up.
Oh,
When I
okay.
was trying to find a song,
Yes, ma'am.
that one actually popped up, and I said, oh, this is here in New York, and I said, look, there's my nephew. I saw Tremail in the background. And
Yes,
Ricky,
ma'am.
And I said, this was right here in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that song, he actually came home and performed it at my son's funeral.
Sure did.
I
Sure
called
did.
and asked him, would he give permission for them to sing it? And I paused, and he said, what do you want, Fernita?
Yes.
And I said, I would rather you sing it. He said, I would be there, and he
Yeah.
came and performed
Yeah.
the song.
My wife and I were in New York when Mickey passed away, and I was talking to you on the phone, and I was just like, whatever I could do to be a blessing. A lot of times when I come home, unfortunately, I'm coming home from funerals because everybody here is so dear to me. So this is like family. I've been gone 15 and a half years, but this is still family to me. So whenever I get a chance to, I'm 7.5 hours away, to be able to come home. So yes, ma'am.
I have another observation.
Okay.
It doesn't involve this. You are the true epitome of somebody who's never forgotten where they came from.
Well, I don't. How can you move on if you don't know what's behind you?
Right.
And you guys mean so much to me. This town means so much to me, and the opportunities that I get, it's not because of something great I did. It's because the people who are around me were going, hey, why don't you try this? You let me sit down at your piano and play. You let me conduct your band. You let me sit in your choir room. What's the saying about the turtle that sits on the post? You know good and well he didn't get there by himself. So that's how I feel. Whenever I have a Grammy nomination, I'm like, I didn't get here by myself. I know good and well I didn't get here by myself. It was people who were encouraging and helping me. So, last one. Yes, ma'am.
All the talk in the house.
Yes, right.
Would you please, you and your wife, sing a song together for us?
Well, sure. What are we gonna sing together? What shall we sing?
We can't leave without playing one of your own songs.
Okay. Let's see. What can we sing together? I don't know. Maybe. What do you want to do?
Can you sing in Portuguese and I can do one of your own songs?
I tell you what. Let's do a hymn.
Okay.
And let's see. Okay. We're trying to find the right key. Sorry. So she's going to sing in Portuguese. That's her language. And then I'm going to sing in New Albany. Just do one verse in the chorus.
Yeah.
Right on.
Tu és fiel, Senhor, meu Pai celeste, pleno poder aos teus filhos dará. Nunca mudaste, tu nunca faltaste, tal como eras, tu sempre serás.
Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have need is thy hands have provided. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Ain't she cute? Just cute. What's this? Hallelujah, hallelujah. God does all things well. So I shared at the concert that this particular song, I wrote this. Many of you know my father suddenly passed away 10 years ago. I was at a gig playing and my phone was blowing up and it was Dietrich calling me and I thought he was trying to call me for something else, and I go on break and he called and he left a message, and the message was like, Daddy died today, you need to come home. And that was it. Nothing else. And I remember when I was driving from my gig back home that I just started humming. And I was like, I'm thinking all this other stuff. I'm trying to take care of my mom, take care of all this stuff. And then it wasn't until maybe about 7 years later, 6, 7 years later, the guy gave me the words, hallelujah, hallelujah, God does all things well. The scripture says, hallelujah, hallelujah, God does all things well. Then my friend wrote this verse. He said, some things we do not understand, the way may not be clear, but God God knows, and yes, He has a plan. So let faith replace your fear. Hallelujah, hallelujah. God does all things well. Hallelujah, hallelujah. God does all things well. So I always tell people when I sing this song, there are things that we walk through in life and you're like, God, I don't know how I'm going to make it out of this one. I'm about to literally lose my mind and I cannot figure it out. I've lost people along the way. I know at least 8 people who died during COVID. I mean, the Lord was just taking them home like that. And I'm like, oh my God, like, Lord, what are you doing? But He was like, I do all things well. Either you believe what my word says or you don't. It's really that simple. And so I have found myself, even in the midst of COVID, going, some things I do not understand. This way does not seem clear. But I know that you have a plan. So I'm going to let faith replace my fear and sing hallelujah, hallelujah. God does all things well. Hallelujah, hallelujah. God does all things well. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you. May God be with you. May God's voice always be strong in your ear, and may you always be obedient to Him. In Jesus' name, thank you so much.